Present. Okay. Welcome to another Raise the Bar Extra Expert Q&A Patreon with the most longest standing legendary barista trainer that I've ever heard of in my life, and SELINA VIGUERA. And even to the point where I'm an East Coast coffee professional, Oklahoma coffee professional, and her legend has spread the whole country and made my way before I ever knew who she was. They were like, how do you not know SELINA? And so I'm so excited to have her here today. We have questions that we prepared, but also if you're here, drop them in the chat, raise your hand. And SELINA, these are prompts. If you feel like you have a better version of an answer than what we're asking, do that. And if you feel like you want to hold court and it really makes you think about something that you feel like is important that we kind of got close to but didn't exactly ask, it's yours. So thank you. I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then we can get into some questions.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for the very warm intro. I've made many friends in the industry that started with other people saying what you've never met before, and then they just know my type, and I immediately connect. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm SELINA VIGUERA. Thank you for also getting my last name pronunciation on point. Yeah, I've been with Blue Bottle for 15 years, going on 16 this June. Mainly because I love being a barista so much, and I found my niche that I get to be a barista and take on more responsibility and make a career out of it. I've very early on in my career, when I first found coffee, specifically specialty coffee, I went to barista camp in 2012. So all of the hard skills training, I'm such a geek for that. I love the classroom style setting, and I think that that has always been foundational to, I think, the growth of my passion for it. The science, the technical side paired with the craft side, and then the people skills. I just feel like it's one of those things where I'm my whole complete self and then some within the industry. And I think that that's my biggest why behind it, and why I'm so passionate about teaching baristas, because I'm grateful to have found coffee and to have had such a long career where I still love what I do every day. Yeah, so Barista Guild, I've been running the coffee bar when there was the DGA Cafe. And I think that that's why I've also gotten my name out there. I think being able to work with a lot of volunteers. Again, my passion is baristas. It's weird. There's no way that I could ever explain that into words, but it's just so deep within me. I get giddy at the idea of showing somebody else the path to really finding an exciting and fulfilling career. So yeah, so all of that and then some. That's me.
Thank you so much. You're gonna make me cry. I also have a passion for baristas, and I think for me it's two things, and I'm curious what your thoughts are before we kind of dive in a little bit more. But one is they're the last bastion of our whole industry. They're the last person that gets to be the ambassador for everything that comes before, and it's so exciting to give them the world to be able to represent coffee. But also it's you're giving them a lifetime skill that no one can take away from them, and they can take it anywhere in the world, and it's an invitation into our industry, and I think it's really beautiful. And I'm curious if there's other things that you think about baristas or that you love, because we also love.
I mean, I've had to been dealing with a lot of turnover. I feel like the world's changed a lot, right? And I think I've had some baristas leave on a good note, because career paths are, life happens. And those that are really grateful for having the barista experience, or those that wish that they could have still done it, the first thing that they express is how much more they learned that they're taking away from the job than what they thought that they were signing up for, right? Because it isn't just about making coffee. If anything, what makes a good barista, it's almost like everything else. It's paying attention to what makes people tick, because pretty recently a friend told me that what my job is I'm not a Blue Bottle employee, right? Like I don't work, I mean, I do work at a Blue Bottle, but what my role is, what my job is, it's connection, it's people. And I make impact every day. And so you don't realize that because, yeah, the day-to-day operations, you take person's order, all of this. But if you do it a certain way, you realize how many connections you make. And that's what brings people back, which, yes, helps the business. But ultimately, you are making connections. You are the first person that people, you know, before they go off into their day, we set them up for success. And it might seem small to some, but it can also be a huge thing to other people.
Beautifully said. I love that.
I'm trying to slow myself down because I get too excited when I speak really fast.
We're doing good. I mean, I'll tell you if you can't, but
Okay.
I love it. No, it's like you're passionate, and that's so important, and that's why you're here. Yeah, so we're curious just like a little bit about like you've been at Blue Bottle for 16 years, you have 17 years in the industry, but like what did your very beginning look like? And then what are some of the arcs of change that you've observed?
My first coffee job was at an internet cafe in Hollywood. And that was just, my first ever job. So I went to school in the Philippines, graduated there, but I grew up half here. So this was still home for me, LA. And so my second job ever was at an internet cafe in Hollywood. And, you know, the training was, this is how you do things. And so I just found myself really curious beyond how to do things. I had never learned tea before, and we had Republic of Tea. And I wanted to be able to not educate, right, but like be more knowledgeable about our products. So I took it upon myself to read the backs of things, read the labels, so I had a little bit more context to give. But one thing that I quickly realized, and this was like the pre-specialty days, right, was there was something about multitasking and being efficient and working with my hands while maintaining contact and building rapport and all of those things happening at once that I really thrived in. And then in 2008, we got flyers for, so this was 2000, 2001. 2008 Coffee Fest in Seattle was the first I'd ever heard the term specialty coffee. So me and my friend went. And that's when I took my first coffee classes, had to take a written exam, which I love, had to take a practical exam, which I love. Um, and yeah, and we went back to that home cafe, which my best friend still owns now. It's called Tiago in Hollywood. We flipped it. We overnight, like literally did not sleep for 2 days in a row, changed the whole menu, learned pour over, learned latte art, got rid of batch brew, all of these things. And we lost a lot of people. Like people were angry that we didn't have a 20-ounce cup, that they had to wait for their pour overs. But we knew that if we stuck to our guns and that's what we believed in and that was the quality that we wanted to offer, that we would attract the right people. And we did. And yeah, so soon after, so I constantly got recruited in the building. It was a Hollywood entertainment building. So my last full-time job, non-coffee, was at a PR office. And I just like, no, I think I'm like going full, like head on 100% into coffee. And that was it. And that's how I met Blue Bottle randomly, was somebody was visiting LA and met me. And then 2 years later remembered me and asked if I would be interested in working for Blue Bottle. But so that was like my start. And then industry changes. I mean, I feel like it's changed a lot. When we opened this store, for example, I had a lot of career baristas looking to work for a big, that's what I did, right? I left the small mom and pop because when I recognized that I wanted to have a career in coffee, I wanted to be trained to be a manager. I didn't want to just be handed the title and then do whatever. I wanted to do it with care, but we didn't have the resources for me to do it properly. And so I think when we opened Blue Bottle LA in 2014, I was seeing a lot of like those same like career baristas around looking to work for like, oh, Blue Bottle was big, new to LA. I want a career in coffee. This is where I want to go. And I feel like sadly, I don't see that a lot anymore. And like to your point, Rachel, I think this is why I also hold on to my role, because I have direct impact on baristas and them wanting to go in this industry. Throughout my career, I've met coffee producers, I've been to Origin, and I feel a sense of responsibility. And I feel very sad at the idea that nobody takes this seriously enough, because we do hold such a huge responsibility on our side of the chain.
Thank you so much for that story. That was like come on, that's badass. Like you're like, okay, I went to a class and we're changing business. Like and like really being committed that early. My first job in specialty, I didn't know a specialty word, but the shop I was
Mm-hmm.
at was 6, and like it is such like a different landscape, and then going in there and like being like, this is what we want to be, this is who we want to be, and then following that path is really beautiful. Um, and so like answer this however you like. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we know exactly as you said earlier, so much of being a barista isn't actually about the coffee. And like that's something that we wanted to focus on is like the holistic parts, but like what are the like ingredients? Like if you're building your Powerpuff Girls in the cauldron, like how do you build your barista? um that things that can be taught or that people have or
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
So because like my learning in coffee has always been like, yeah, at the barista camps, right? Like I always seek out any coffee event where there is learning. Blue Bottle obviously, like with everyone else around COVID time, got rid of the training department and all of the training was done at cafe level. So managers, shift supervisors, or learning coaches, and we have like this whole onboarding 90-day program, which the first 4 weeks um, is where all of the hard skills need to get trained. So it's for us, it's like blended learning. We have like an online platform where all of the videos and things to watch. And then it's about 4 hours of hands-on, which in a space like mine, I've kind of blurted out, but this is a very small cafe and very busy foot traffic. So I have to be really intentional because there's so much to learn, right? But throughout all of the resources that we've had, I do think about it in terms of there's hard skills first, right? You need repetition, you need the why behind it, you need to be able to watch them through those hard skills before they build any kind of muscle memory, like make the corrections early before they start building that muscle memory, and then repetition. And then I think in the second month is where I start to build like just the operational knowledge, right? I have a very specific bar flow. I geek out on bar flow. I played basketball in college. I'm all about my triangles. And it's all about collaboration and communication so everyone feels supported through those high stress moments on bar, that everyone knows their role on bar. So I'm realizing that even though it's meant to be intuitive, it is in my brain. And I've tried so many different ways of breaking it down. Some people pick up on it really quickly, and some people like, I need to break it down. So I think about hard skills, I think about operational skills, and then the soft skills, right? There's so much we learn. I have to teach us here how we communicate. We're a very communicative bar. Again, it's how we feel supported by each other. It's how we ask for what we need. And to some people, that doesn't come natural. So maybe in the beginning I say just like narrate what you're doing, tell me everything that you're doing so I'm following along even though I'm not looking. And then once that habit's there, we start like fine tuning and breaking down exactly what's needed. So I think about like those are the skills, right? When I think about specifically those soft skills at Blue Bottle, it is part of my role as a cafe leader is people development. So for every role we have competencies that we try to develop, things like communication, interpersonal savvy. So sometimes if there's friction, right, like with feedback methodology and making sure that we're having conversations, we're talking to each other. Sense of urgency is kind of hard to teach. Multitasking, attention to detail. So all of these things come together. And as a leader, my job is to pay attention and understand where people are at, and for me to understand how I'm challenging them tomorrow, like little by little, until they get to that point where they feel like good and they're independent.
Beautiful. Yeah, sense of urgency is a hard one to instill if it does not
Mhm.
exist.
I've had to reframe it for somebody that just could not do it. I was like, oh, I think it's because I'm not confident. It's like, okay, I need to reframe sense of urgency into this idea of constant movement then.
Mhm.
If you know what you're responsible for in the space that you're moving around, if there's nothing to do at your first station, look for something to do and just like keep moving.
Yeah, that's a good reframe. Yeah, reframing sounds like something that you might have to work a lot in, especially
Yeah.
again, like with all the turnover and in such a high density area that you're working in.
Mhm.
And
And we're also getting a lot of people that have either never baristed before, which is like it's right. We don't necessarily look for previous barista experience of Blue Bottle, where we go for like our interview questions are based off of competencies. Tell me about a time that you went above for someone. Tell me about a time that you had to like work with somebody difficult and different from you, you know? So we're getting a lot of people that sometimes have never even worked service before. And so for me, I'm also like my craft right now, like outside of, I'm always wanting to learn more about coffee. I feel like I'm falling behind because there's so much now. All of these home brewing, prosumer stuff. But I think what I'm currently geeking out on always is every individual person on my team, what challenges they're hitting and how I can get them to the next level. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's that. It's that's how I'm having to apply my attention to detail is how am I gonna get this person here when this is their challenge and they're stuck? But I need to like keep moving forward, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Like I was actually thinking about that one is brewing my same recipe that I always brew every single morning and thinking, thank God I don't have to like dial in like recipes or build new recipes all the time. So glad there's people that are good at that. That's not my thing. And so, and kind of thinking about all the people that you have trained throughout the years and you have such a wide view. What do you view as professionalism in specialty coffee? Because I think there's like a cultural umbrella of what we view as professionalism, and sometimes that gets like parlayed onto our industry or onto our baristas. But like, what is your view of what makes a good professional behind the bar?
Like I don't want this to come off like I'm like such a professional, but I think because there's a lot. I think, and I think you saw my post, right? Like care is huge because care drives so much, right? Because I was so hungry to learn this industry, like this thing that I seem to have a knack for. I wanted to understand more about coffee. So whether or not I was getting paid for it, like how much does it cost to go to SEA events and Barista Guild access and Barista Camp? That was an investment I chose to make because I really wanted to learn. And I really wanted to learn not just for myself, but with the intention of being able to teach and share those resources as well. You know, so for me, it's a curiosity, I guess, and a person that will take initiative outside of the time that we're, whatever information that we're sharing here, wanting to just, yeah, that having that curiosity to invest in their own learning outside and off the clock. Because that does build. Because when I have specific coffees, we had the Taiwan Cup of Excellence a couple of weeks ago, very small, very expensive. And who's going to talk about it? Nobody but me. Except I do have like one or two like baristas that are really like knowledgeable about coffee and processing, but like that doesn't come natural anymore. You really have to drill it in. So I think for me, what sets a professional apart is somebody that's going to take the initiative to know that and understand that, and not just for yourself, but because you want to bridge the gap with a guest that might not know and you want them to know. Right? Yeah. There's a care in like the other thing that I think about is obviously the people skills, because our job is we're constantly reading people, right? We don't, there's not a script, yes and no, right? Like you welcome somebody in, you take their order, all of these things, but you're also reading, does this person want to connect? Does this person not? And then behind you, are you noting that your coworker has been on the same bar position for the past 5 hours and they're burnt out and grumpy? Are you reading that? Right. So I think for us, it's really being able to know what's constantly going on in our surroundings and be able to respond and have the tools to respond in the right way. I also think attention to detail is huge. And attention to detail attached to care is what creates consistency, right? Consistency and hospitality is what brings people back into our doors. That's what builds loyalty when they know what to expect. And I think when we're not paying attention to those things, if we get caught up in a rush and we stop caring about our milk texture, we start caring about like our flow rate on our pour over and all of these things, and things start to falter, right? Anybody can hit a button and pour water out of a kettle, but for somebody to do it with care is somebody who has attention to detail. So those are the things that come up in my mind.
Yeah, I heard 3 C's: curiosity, care, and consistency. I think yeah, that's what you're teaching at Level Up. Okay.
The 3 C's.
The 3 C's. Yeah, speaking of, wow, Ivana put all these in order and our conversation is just flowing right
I know, look at her.
So yeah, I was a working barista for 8 years, I think, before I started moving into roasting, and there was customer service change from 2008 to 14 or whatever, or 6, I don't know, but the late aughts to the teens to now, especially in a post-COVID world, I think there's been like eras of customer service. And I think hearing what you're saying, there is a consistency in hospitality. There's a consistency in like how we move through the bar, but like what are some differences or like nuances maybe that you've seen shift in your time?
Can you give me an example of what you mean by a customer service change?
Maybe I'm thinking about how customers would interact with you, or like the expectation of customers. Like I feel like when I started, it felt luxurious, and maybe that's like the millennial mindset of nostalgia, but like there was like, you expected to be a little slower. You expected in 2006 to come in and it was going to take 12, 13 minutes before you walk back out the door. And I go into a shop down the street now and I'll post up and I'll watch people get real impatient at about like the 180-second mark, you know, and there's just like a
I didn't even know that was a change, because that's all I know. Thanks for clarifying. No, I think there's definitely been a shift. You know, at Blue Bottle, we launched the mobile app actually right before COVID was going to happen. And then the mobile app then became like a really good answer for like when we were operating through, you know, like not letting everyone in and all of those modes. And since the mobile app, we now also welcome DoorDash, which for any barista, right? We would rather deal with like the in-cafe foot traffic. When we first started, and what I was used to at the Ferry building was a constant line out the door. Everyone expected to wait in line for 30 minutes for coffee or a waffle even. And they got it. Like I mean, San Francisco culture too, you wait in line for anything good, right? Here, it's almost like I'm running 3 cafes in the space of one. And what I've learned too of like noticing with some of my baristas that have lived that pre-COVID life, the pre-mobile app life, where we, as the customer service professionals, know how to like start firing a drink down the line based off of recognition versus waiting for the transaction to happen and the ticket to be. Like I realized like, oh, that's a gap that I can train once I'm like done with the hard skills, right? But even our mindset on how to like function behind bar has changed. But yeah, there is that, right? Want things now. I just placed my order. Why is it taking so long sometimes, right? And so I think for us as professionals, being able to handle that with empathy, but I'll get asked sometimes by some baristas how they could have handled the situation better. And sometimes I'm like, I would have said exactly the same thing that you did, but maybe because I'm a little bit more confident in my delivery and I'm not going to take your shit. I'm not just standing here, you know? I think it's just having that confidence in like spending. I try to teach them to be like, I don't believe in the customer is always right all the time. You know, we're trying our hardest. Absolutely. Our job is very complex, actually. It's hard skills. It's a lot of juggling. So don't talk to me like that. So I don't want them to take that kind of stuff if they don't deserve it, right? So I like to make it known. But those are the things that have changed, is because like with digital world where people want things now and they don't want to connect. But what I love is because I'm old school. If you see so this is our mobile, this is where all of our mobile drinks go on that rack right there. But the initial design of our mobile app was the only parts that they were skipping was the ordering process and the waiting, right? But we have 5 beats for hospitality. So beat 3 was when we connect with guests while they're waiting. Beat 4 is the handoff. Beat 5 is while they leave. So our guests are trained even when they're ordering mobile, but when they go to that cart, because we're always going to say thank you and use their names, they're trained now that they will look back at us and say thank you. So that's for me, like finding that balance of, okay, this digital world, I know that you're in a rush. This is convenient and fast for you, but I'm kind of still going to force you to connect a little bit and we see you.
Yeah, I think that's really brilliant. And I don't know that I've seen that in other places of being able to still have a human connection touch point in a run in, grab your drink and leave world. I think
I refuse to let them leave like that because I refuse to work like that. I refuse to work without connection.
Yeah, well, again, we are right back on track with and you can take this anywhere you want, but like I know there's moments throughout your career, there's like a guest experience that you will never forget, whether good or poor, or like a learning something. But do you have anything that just like float to the top for you that are really like poor
Like
guest.
towards me?
It could be,
Or
I mean, some of mine were like if I was managing and I watched something that happened on the floor or something that happened directly to me, or even as I was a guest somewhere else and I was like, that was incredible, or oh Jesus Christ, what just happened? You know, like
yeah.
anything as around the service bar guest experience interaction.
I mean, something that I think of all the time is when I mean, where we are at Bikini, like this is such a prime location, right? It's a heavy foot traffic street. It's world renowned. People come here to shop, but we also have a good amount of community here. There's schools around us, so in the morning, the parents are trying to get in and out. And I think something I would always do is no matter what, I will, because we're asked to like pour milk, for example, in front of guests, right? But whenever I see a child, I'm favorite auntie around here. So like I will always, and my bar flow is so that we cover and protect those moments to connect, right? So I'm always somebody who's gonna kneel down and pour their hot chocolate in front of them and like interact. And I'm gonna trust that they're gonna cover bar until I step back on, right? So for me, it's those moments where I've seen it enough, and I know that I've done a good job with my team when they're taking the time and recognizing the right time to do gestures like that without me asking and without me on bar, and making those connections with guests. Because I think, again, for me, I think in my role and because of my love for the craft, not even just like the making coffee part, right? But it is the skill of understanding how to connect with people, how to make time for that one transaction after the next. Like I'm cracking jokes. I don't know you, whatever, you're gonna be my friend, right? Remember the names on the second visit, remember the drinks on the third. Like that's an effort that we make because we care about that and we care for people to feel seen and feel a part of something. And I thrive in that. And so for me, it's just like outside of what they're required to learn for the job, how can I share a piece of what has kept me here? And not just at Blue Bottle, but like as a barista, as somebody who refuses to leave this connection down to earth here. Like I want to teach and pass off all of the things that have motivated me and inspired me to connect to them. And so for me, my answer to this question wasn't about me doing it, but me influencing them enough for me to witness them do it on their own independently.
I think I think I actually just got goosebumps, so thank you for that. Because that is truly, I think it's so aligned with what we want with Raise the Bar and like what we hope for in the coffee industry. And so drives us is that exactly, and that you get to like view that in real time of like this tangible difference that you have instilled from your knowledge, and then you know that that's going to move forward. You know, it's like this
Mhm.
generational knowledge transfer, and it is the small moments that make people feel really cared about. And like, so maybe it isn't one little kid that you poured a heart for, but you know that that little kid will remember their heart being poured. It's like their
Mhm.
experience with you and then with your staff that they get to move forward with. It's
Mhm.
lovely. Yeah, so you were talking kind of about, I've heard you kind of drop a couple in, but when y'all are rocking and rolling and you see 3 customers, you're like, oh, they're gonna want 4 cappuccinos, but I don't know what these 2 people want. Maybe you start prepping your milk or things like that of the workflow, the bar flow, and you mentioned triangles. So like, what is some like operational nitty gritty, like really core things for you?
I think for me, and I'm in this brain right now because I'm right now training for people 2 months in, and I just onboarded somebody today. So my brain is always in training mode. But it's right outside of like the bar. Yeah, she's always training people. It's a never ending battle. Um, it's when people, and I love working bar. I love working back of house. And the thing that I try to teach, again, I'm like kind of like spread my brain and like teach them, not that I'm the best, but I want to be the best because I care. I want to be the most efficient because the more I get done, the more it supports them. And so that's usually my mindset. So I think in terms of operational excellence is, what I try to teach them in their roles, like let's say a mid is floor support and what are you responsible for, is getting so good at understanding how to do each individual task that you can now like start overlapping and multitasking and getting 3 things done in the time that you would have done one, and that you're constantly like able to help. So it's like it really is a lot of like multitasking and detail orientedness. When it comes to like bar flow, it's my favorite moments is when people compliment us like, wow, you guys are like a machine. Or I know we all get this, and no matter what combination of people, all of a sudden it's the A team. But I know why they recognize it. And it's because we're not speaking and somebody's leaving a space, another one's filling in. And it's like an unspoken dance that happens in choreography that isn't discussed but understood. So I think that's what excellence is, right? And like as soon as like I try to teach because the way that I function is if I'm standing at a station for more than 3 seconds with nothing to do, I'm not standing here. I'm going to go look for something else. So, right, like in those moments, being able to recognize not being so task focused, but if you see a line out the door and there's no ticket, get into that line. Let's keep it moving. Let's get people help, and like just going above and beyond in that way. So I guess going above and beyond is also another thing. I don't know. There's like so many like little things that can be seen as simple, but they're also like unexpected when you're dealing with when you've been around like when you've been in environments where people are doing the bare minimum.
Yeah. I think I have a side question from that, and I think again we were talking a bit before we started about like the East Coast West Coast differences, and I had a big culture shock going from Oklahoma and Kansas City my first 10 years, and then New England, totally different culture of customer, colder definitely, and it took a lot of adaptation, and I'm curious. What am I trying to ask about like younger generations of baristas? Like it's different, and it feels like sometimes the attention span for learning could be like shorter, or the people are coming into like a physical technical skills based job that haven't had that before. So what are some things that, like you were talking about the reframe of like constant moving versus sense of urgency, or what are some things that you found in the last couple of years that are really helpful in teaching people like these skills they haven't come up against yet, that they're going to be bringing into so they can find that workflow, so they can find that like symbiosis on bar with their team?
I mean, yeah, we're definitely training a lot of younger people new to the workforce period. So even outside of coffee, we're teaching other things that you would think they would know how to do, like sweeping and mopping the floors properly,
I literally
and really
taught how to sweep last summer. It was
and how to properly tie the trash around the bag so it doesn't fall in.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
it's
so
you are the auntie, but
Mhm.
in a professional environment, and I'm really curious. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, but that's wild.
No, I mean, same, right? For me, it's comforting to know that we all, no matter where we are having the same experiences because I do think a lot of things have changed, and I've had to be more patient. And for me, because I think the main thing that I've been doing, so we like our skill build checklist literally walks you through every single step. Like let's say pour over. I've actually had somebody that could not for the life of him get the hang of pouring water from the kettle at a steady rate at a repeatable pour pattern. And it didn't work out because if you can't get this one, how am I gonna like move you on to espresso and milk? And all I can do is provide this space and the coaching and the training. But honestly, as a manager, and this is manager brain, not barista trainer, accountability has been like the biggest muscle that I've had to flex because old me, pre mobile app, pre whatever we're just dealing with in cafe foot traffic. I do have a lot of patience, but my fault then was because I loved being an educator so much. Even if somebody wasn't showing up, if they weren't showing up a certain way, I felt that there was something that I was missing, that I was lacking as a trainer. What else can I do to get them there? Right? Maybe not with the hard skills, but with everything else. Like, what else can I do? What have I not done yet? But at this point, it's too much a risk for the rest of my team for me to hold on to somebody that probably clearly never going to work out if they're not showing up properly, if they're not having the mindset. So I think I'm reading a lot of things to write. Are they open to it? Do they want this? Because the difference of somebody who wants us and just cannot, I have more patience for and empathy for. I'm going to keep working with you. I might find our leadership and development trainer, Emma, to like work with them, maybe take them to a slower bar, which is what I did for this other person that ultimately did not work out, right? So for me, it's just like understanding where someone's at. And maybe there's parts of the skill build where I can skip because they're, and then just use the rest of that time to really hone in and like coach. But the biggest thing is for us to be present. I hate the most when I hear new people, new trainees, new employees being thrown onto a bar because they're not given the time and day of training. If I want them to do a good job, I have to invest in them. And if it's not me, it's one of my shift leads, right? Like we are all tasked with training. So for me, I build a really intentional training program, a really intentional training schedule, make sure there's repetition, and make sure there's feedback being given and coaching being given. And only when we've tried everything and there's no improvement, then it becomes like a progressive discipline thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. Thank you.
I hope that answered the question.
No, totally. And I was thinking of, yeah, when you had to like redirect or find a new pathway, like maybe laterally or out the door.
Mhm.
But like, what about, we're always thinking about pathways, and one of my least favorite terms that I've heard my entire career is, oh, I'm just a barista. And I was guilty of it. I hear it all the time still, of like just a barista, and I stop it immediately and
Yeah.
like get that qualifier out there, like baristas rule the world. But sometimes it's hard on your body. It's, sometimes hours are hard, all of these things, and you are passionate and you're curious and you want to stay connected, but you like don't always see pathways, or we don't always, not everyone has a Selena to tell them in writing what their skill sets actually are that they're learning. And don't know that there is a professional world that is sustainable, and like you are a shining beacon of what that can look like. But what are some pathways that you've seen or that you're excited about for that you've watched baristas blossom into, that isn't just directly behind the bar?
I mean, for me, my pathway was this, right? Like I have a degree in management and yeah, my basketball skills and all of these things, like this was the next necessary step for me. And fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know how people see it for me, like this is where the buck stops for me because anything higher up in retail is a corporate job, and that's I'm a people and copy person. Um, Within Blue Bottle, for example, there's like learning and development, right? I think now I'm hearing a lot of like companies outside of coffee, within coffee, have more people development. So what I've loved and why I've thrived in my role is we do have a people development team and they put together all of our resources. So, right, we already know the training path, but I think that that's even become less linear. Like it looks a little bit differently, right? I've seen, well, just like you guys, putting together like nonprofits and training as well. I don't know, wholesale educators. I think, I don't know. I'm thinking about me and what I would want because I'm too stubborn to move too far away from the being able to serve. But I think within coffee, right, there's always the path towards those that are like leaning more towards green coffee, interning towards, like green coffee departments, training, if not management. Those are more of the typical ones that I've seen outside of people like doing their pop-ups, right? So it's not service, it's on their time and they can do creative things, experiment with recipes. I see a lot of that down here in LA. A lot of my previous baristas do those things and, line out the door, they're done when they're done and like they get to do it on their dime, so they don't have to like commit to that as a pathway, but they get to like still be passionate about it in their way.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like if there's a big connecting piece to coffee people, I think it's curiosity, but I think baristas are often a very creative bunch, and I think yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And like if you love being a barista, I think a big part of it, I think I see the two things, right? It's the creating part, but also the people connection part and the community part. So I think it's hard to separate truly from that.
Yeah, and there isn't another thing that's like it, like service and like everyday like, humanity. So what do you, and I think I'm trying to get at this question because I do think there are these hard skills that we don't always have words to put around, but I think the wholesale transition of like as barista, like you're also in sales, you're also in teaching your customers, you're selling whatever that Taiwanese COE lot or the fact that you're in charge, or whatever it
Yeah.
is. But what's something that sometimes you have to like hold a mirror up to a barista and be like, hey, you actually have all these things and you might not be aware of it, but like what are some things that like you build up over time that, and you're so thorough in documenting, you might be great at teaching them that they have it, but I feel like it's an experience I've heard a lot where they're like, it dawns on you later that you gathered all of this behind bar, you know?
Like those like soft skills.
Yeah, or even just like sales. Like I think that I feel like
Okay.
or you know, like money handling or like reconciling or P&Ls or stuff that kind of, or like keeping an eye on your labor if you're a shift lead.
Yeah, a little bit of bookkeeping, a little bit of like management. Um, there's really so much, because like where my brain will always gravitate to is always like the skills that they don't know that they're learning in order to like not sink and swim, you know, through this. So I think about, wasn't there a podcast with Bailey Arnold and I don't know if it was on Totally Dissolved, about like all of our transferable skills. But yeah, like you're literally responsible for this whole shop, right? Your cash handling, your bookkeeping, you are sales. You're required to know product knowledge. So sales is definitely an easy outlet. Um, they teach each other. Once they're confident enough in their skills, they're teachers and they don't even realize it, right? I don't know. Those are the things that come top. Yeah, top of my mind.
No, that makes sense.
There's so many things. We're not
Yeah,
just a barista. That's why.
exactly right. And I think that that's something that hopefully is becoming more like common knowledge, but it's just something that I like to think about of like, you have all these things that you see in the world and you might not apply them to yourselves, but you've been doing it, so just go do it.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's very easy to make, and that's like the sad part, right? Like we know how complex of a role it actually is to do it well. And those that do it well really make an impact. You make an impact on like the company that you work for, on the community that you're building, and all of these things. Or you don't even realize how many people you've converted into drinking better coffee. How many
yeah,
people have we seen that start drinking a mocha and they're always the way down to their single origin drips or macchiatos? You know what I mean? We've seen that because of the relationships that we've built by being professionals that are knowledgeable, that know how to educate without the feeling of educating someone. Um, Now I forget my point.
I think that was a great point.
Okay.
Um, and I know that sometimes there are like hard things, or is there anything that's like, this was a really important lesson that I observed, or like a cautionary tale for children, or like anecdotes that you wanted to share?
I don't know necessarily, but I think that the only thing that comes to mind is just coming off of that topic of what makes a professional barista. It's something that was in your guys' slides that I really love. Something about, right, like when it comes to like understanding extraction, for example, it's, you know, that to be able, wait, what was it? I wrote it down. Look, I wrote my notes. Um, and everything that you guys wrote about what a great barista is, like obviously I'm taking this into my cafe because like I always love bringing external stuff to inspire and point. Um, it's kind of this idea that extractive knowledge, for example, is about decision making, not recipes, right? And so like you think about, we've had a reputation, or some have created this reputation of, well, there's many reputations. There's either the burnt out barista, the hipster barista, and all of these things. And it always comes with a negative connotation. And I think it's because, right, what makes you a professional is the knowledge that you have. But it's not about force feeding that. It's not about making yourself look good, because that's how you lose people. It's not about being pretentious. It's not being, I know about better than you, or our coffee's better than whoever. Like it really isn't about that, because then it becomes gatekeeping, right? The whole point is to arm yourself with the knowledge. Because here's the other reason why I love what I do. Because I know I have a unique skill and trait and I'm good at connecting with people, I bring people in. You've seen me say this a lot. Blue Bottle brings people through my doors and I get to introduce them to specialty coffee. And I say that like I feel like that is my calling, because of the producers that I've met, that I've been there, and I've, you know, like everything that we always talk about in the industry. And I do feel the weight of that responsibility. And so for me is, I see this person's interested, you're gauging how much information they want from you. How do you ease them into the process? Maybe they're sitting sipping their mocha, and I'm like, hey, do you want to taste our tasters? And I give them a pour over, and they've never had a national before. And then you talk about it, you engage with them. And I think it's so fine. It's like such a fine tuned interaction that can make or break when we bombard people with information or if we come off a certain way. So for me, and that's why like care is like my biggest thing, right? Like I care enough to pay attention to who I'm surrounded with. That's my team and my guests. Who wants what? How do I give it? Right? What am I giving and how do I give it to continue to bring them in? So it's not just about the product, it's about the information. It's about why is your coffee this much? It's like, well, actually, right? And that's also a sensitive conversation to have. How do you talk about the price point in a way that they're just never going to understand it if they expect a cappuccino to always be $2? But how do I? So my brain, like I can physically feel my brain moving around, figuring out how to like engage in this conversation without pushing someone away. So I think it's that, like, be curious, learn all of the things, perfect your craft, but don't have an air about it because that's not what coffee is. Like at the end of our day, it's hospitality. And so if you don't know how to like read between those lines and understand how to how to share this information, how to share coffee, how to share your craft with people, then you're not going to be good at it. Or maybe that's too harsh. I'll take it back.
No, I mean, I think that like that's something that we say a lot is like we want to be we no, we don't want to be. We want to let me run it back. We want to be the welcoming committee, not the gatekeepers. Like, and
Yeah.
sometimes you need a gentler welcoming committee than somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have like what I mean, there's a couple more questions. We're coming up on time, so I'm curious, like, yeah, like what is a question that you get a lot from baristas, and then also kind of thinking forward to how we're going to wrap up this conversation. Something that you wanted to talk about I haven't asked about yet, or like was there something you expected that we asked that we didn't ask that you wanted to make sure we didn't miss?
I don't think so. I have two notes open, like your questionnaire initially and like the notes that I took from you. I think it ended up coming up through the conversation. Like the main things really for me is understanding that what a good barista is. It's almost it's so much to be a good barista versus just a barista, right? Um, like with Eversys in the game and automation and all of these things that are developing, the whole intention behind that is to remove any like physical barriers between guest and barista. But if there's no care there, if you're gonna like get lazy on the hospitality just because you're making the coffee part easy for you, it kind of misses the point, right? So no matter what, like the job of the barista is the three C's, right? It's the connection, understanding how to connect that. It's how to make coffee and understand it because yes, I love what you guys said. It is about decision making because every day I taste with them. I step on the floor, I taste the drip tasters, I ask for a shot of espresso, I debrief. It takes 5 seconds to show care about quality, right? And because I taste every day, I can give feedback. Hey, it tastes like this in the finish, but what's the TDS? I'm like, okay. And so like I love that you guys said that because that's what it is. It's not meant to spew out facts to them. It's for us to make the coffee taste consistent and for coffee to taste better. And then what's everything else? Am I being a good teammate? Am I holding it down? Do I know my role on this bar? Am I able to be as efficient as possible while paying attention to details, right? And how am I with guests? I don't know. It's such a complex and very fulfilling role. And again, for me, like I'm stubborn. Like I found a way to not have to never be a barista again. But now I'm responsible for training it and building that. And I understand now that people are maybe not looking for a role within coffee. Maybe it's just a for now thing. But I know that what they're taking away from this job is a lot more than what they bargained for. And that I want them to see how hard it is because what I hate the most is this idea of like, oh, I applied to be a barista because I thought it was a chill job. And I'm like, sir, no, get out of here with that attitude. You know what I mean? So I think being open to learning and understanding that it's so much, it's a lot, but it's also very fulfilling, right? What we do is community connection and we make impact on people every day. And that's what drives me. I make an impact on my team by being a good leader, by being a good trainer. I make an impact on my community They love seeing me here. The kids come in yelling my name, like, Selena, you know what I mean? Like, that feeds my soul. And I might not be a millionaire ever in my life, but every day I walk into my job with love. And I think that I'm learning to like really not take that for granted, because it's a beautiful thing. I think being a barista, it's sad that it is an entry level job, or people see it as just a barista, because it's so much and it gives so much to other people.
It is, and it is really, I think sometimes we get so steeped in this industry, and I certainly occasionally lose sight of how lucky we are to work in something we care so much about, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that is kind of rarefied air. And I think I never want you to leave the bar, Selena. Um, uh, I don't know if we have anything in the chat, but like, I know you told us kind of like your resume, but you got anything cooking right now?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So last year I pitched my first workshop for Expo, and I'm doing it a second time this year. So I'm teaching a workshop again, my second one, my baby, which I had so much anxiety over it last year because it was my first one, but it was well received. So I'm doing it again, my work it barflow and workflow efficiency workshop. And then I'm also teaching another class. I've always wanted Blue Bottle to be more involved. And they were never not involved for any specific reason other than James Freeman was just a secretive, quiet kind of guy, you know? But I'm teaching another workshop for the first time, cultivating a strong team and work environment, and that is inspired by I was part of Coffee Futures Fund last year, and they had me be the subject matter expert on leadership, and they asked me to put together some materials from onboarding to training in 30, 60, 90 days, and they really loved that content, and they said like that. Julie House said this should be a master class on its own, so I'm teaching a class on that because I feel like, again, like we don't just throw people on. We have to do it with care, right? Like, so putting together, understanding how to find the right people, what onboarding and hiring should look like, how to structure a training program. I'm in my era of sharing resources. So those are two workshops that I'm working on for World of Coffee that I'm really excited about.
That rocks. That's so important. I'm glad that Julie said that because it's true, and like we do have all this like institutional knowledge and we have all of the stuff that like kind of lives here. And I'm so glad that you're putting it in a place that, like getting it out and teaching it to people. That's wonderful.
Yeah.